1. The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. We begin with the darkness of the family, the darkness of the home. Gregor Samsa, a traveling salesman, wakes one morning to find himself transformed into a monstrous vermin. But this transformation is not the tragedy. It is only the catalyst. Gregor, you see, was the sole provider for his family. He sacrificed his life, his dreams, his happiness, all for them. His family, in return, took his dedication for granted. The moment he transforms, his utility stops. And the moment his utility stops, the betrayal begins. It is a sequential betrayal. A slow, methodical decay of love. First, his father. The patriarch, who Gregor was paying off, betrays his duty of protection. He is repulsed. He attacks Gregor, first with a newspaper, and later with an apple, a literal forbidden fruit, that he throws so hard it lodges in Gregor's back, a mortal wound. Second, his mother. She faints at the sight of him. She cannot bear to be in the same room. This is the betrayal of unconditional love. But the final, and most painful, betrayal comes from his sister, Greet. She was the only one who cared for him, the only one who brought him food. But it is Greet who, at the end, passes the final sentence. She tells her parents, "Things can't go on like this, and we have to try to get rid of it." She no longer even uses his name. The true horror of the metamorphosis is not that Gregor becomes a bug. It's the slow, dawning realization that in the eyes of his family, he was always just a bug. He was a machine for making money. The moment the machine broke, his humanity was revoked by those closest to him. His death is not a tragedy, but a transaction. He overhears his sister's betrayal, and in a final act of self-betrayal, he starves himself for the good of the family. He accepts their judgment. He agrees he is a nuisance. And when his corpse is found, his family's reaction is not grief. It is relief. They feel a sense of peace. His death, for them, signifies a new beginning. Gregor's final act is to give them one last gift, his absence. 2. No longer human by Osamu Dazai. If Gregor Samsa had his humanity revoked by others, Oba Yozo feels he was never human to begin with. No longer human is the story of a man Yozo who feels completely detached and alienated from society. He is terrified of other people. He cannot understand them. He cannot guess what it must be to live the life of a human being. To survive, he adopts a mask of clownery. He becomes the jester, the fool, desperately trying to imitate the human behaviors he sees, but cannot comprehend. All the while, he descends into alcoholism, drug abuse, and profound depression. But the true darkness of this book is hidden in its title. The common English translation is "no longer human." This is wrong. The original Japanese title, Ningen Shikaku, means something far more devastating. It means disqualified as human. No longer implies you were human, and you fell. Disqualified is an active rejection. It means there is a test. There are rules for being human. And Yozo, no matter how hard he tries, has failed. His alienation is not a choice. It is an inability. He watches others, so happy with their lives, as if they are a different species. He is a foreigner to the entire human race. This book, Dazai's semi-autobiographical masterpiece, is the ultimate testament to existential dread. It is the fear that you are the only one who didn't receive the rule book for being alive. 3. The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. We move from a man who feels disqualified to a woman who is crushed by the system for being a woman. The Bell Jar is Sylvia Plath's semi-autobiographical novel following Esther Greenwood, a young, brilliant woman who, over one summer in New York, descends into severe mental illness. The Bell Jar is her metaphor for this suffocating depression, a sour, distorting glass that traps her, separating her from the rest of the world. But the book argues that the bell jar is not just in her head, The bell jar is 1950s America. Esther is brilliant. She has personal ambition. But society, at every turn, tells her that her only restricted roles are wife and mother. She observes a gap between what society says she should experience and what she does experience. This is the darkness of a system. A powerful critical lens for this novel is the concept of femininity as disability. In the 1950s patriarchal system, the valued standard is male. To be female is to be seen as a defective or undeveloped departure from that standard. Esther's madness is not just a chemical imbalance. It is a sane reaction to an insane world. Her mental decline is caused by the expectations set forth by patriarchal behavioral norms. The system itself is the bell jar. The disabled female body in this world is a phenomenon brought about by a hegemonic patriarchal system. The darkness of the bell jar is the horror of realizing you are not sick. The world is. 4. The Stranger by Albert Camus. From the darkness of a sick society, we move to the darkness of a meaningless one. The Stranger is the story of Merceau, a man who lives a detached, indifferent life. In the first half, his mother dies. He does not cry. He goes on a date. He kills an Arab man on a beach, seemingly for no reason. In the second half, he is put on trial. And this is where the real book begins. The prosecution is not particularly interested in the murder. It is obsessed with the fact that Merceau did not cry at his mother's funeral. This book is the pillar of absurdism, the belief that life has no inherent meaning, and the human search for one is pointless. Merceau is a stranger to the social games we all play. He refuses to perform the act of grief. He refuses to lie. His trial is not about justice. It is about societal self-defense. Society finds his lack of emotion disturbing. The court must invent a rational motive for his action, that he is a soulless character, a monster, because the alternative is too terrifying. The alternative is that the universe is irrational and indifferent. Mersault's real crime is not the murder. It is his honesty about the absurd. He is condemned not for killing a man, but for his refusal to conform. He is condemned for his 100% honesty that brings him to the gallows. Society would rather execute a man than admit that life might be meaningless. 5. American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. If Merceau is executed for having no facade, Patrick Bateman is a man who has only a facade. American Psycho is a brutal, scathing satire of 1980s yuppie consumerism. Patrick Bateman, a wealthy investment banker, is a void. His personality is a collection of brands. His opinions are stolen from music reviews. His entire life is a performance of status anxiety. He is also, perhaps, a psychopathic serial killer. The book's genius is that the violence is not separate from the consumerism. The violence is the consumerism. This postmodern society works to fit people into a mold and remove individuality. Bateman is defined solely as a consumer subject. He is caught in a world of fierce competition and rampant consumerism, and it leaves him with a profound inner emptiness. His psychopathy, his narcissism, his painful lust for status, it is all the same impulse. His violence is a desperate, failed attempt to feel something real, to break free from the mold in a world where everything is a surface. But he fails. His murders are just another form of consumption. And here is the punchline. Is any of it real? Bateman is a famously unreliable narrator. He is torn between the postmodern reality and the reality he creates in his mind. But in this world of pure surface, it doesn't matter. The fantasy of murder and the act of murder have become as equivalent and exchangeable as two identical off-white business cards. The darkness is not the violence. It is the emptiness. 6. A Clockwork Orange by Anthony Burgess. From a man who cannot feel, we turn to a man who only feels. Alex, the young droog, at the heart of A Clockwork Orange, is a monster. He and his gang revel in ultra-violence. He is caught, imprisoned, and offered a way out, the reclamation treatment. It is a state-sponsored aversion therapy. They force him to watch violent films, paired with a drug that makes him excruciatingly sick. He is conditioned. Soon, the very thought of violence makes him vomit. He is cured. He is safe. But is he good? This is the central moral paradox of the 20th century. The prison chaplain poses it perfectly. Is a man who chooses the bad perhaps in some ways better than a man who has the good imposed upon him? The book presents an unbearable choice. Alex chooses evil, but the state, by removing his choice, becomes a different, colder monster. They destroy his free will, and in doing so, they destroy his humanity. They turn him into a clockwork orange, a little machine capable only of good. He ceases to be a creature capable of moral choice. The book asks, what is worse? A single evil individual, or a society that will destroy a man's soul in the name of good? But there is a twist. The American version of the book and the famous Stanley Kubrick film end with Alex cured of his conditioning, laughing, "I was cured all right." The original British novel had a 21st chapter. In it, Alex just grows up. He gets bored with violence. He sees an old friend with a wife and a child, and he decides he wants that too. This changes everything. It suggests the real clockwork isn't the state's conditioning. It's just adolescence, and the cure is just time. 7. Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. From the darkness of choice, we move to the darkness of seduction. Lolita is one of the most controversial books ever written. It is the confession of Humbert Humbert, a verbose middle-aged literature professor, and his perverse, destructive, and obsessive relationship with his 12-year-old stepdaughter, Dolores Hayes. But this book's true, profound darkness is not its subject. It is its method. Humbert Humbert is a monster. He is a pedophile, a rapist, and a murderer. He is one of the most unreliable narrators in literature. But he has one weapon. A weapon Nabokov intentionally gives him. A fancy prose style. Humbert's eloquent and hypnotic use of language is a deliberate trap. It is designed to seduce the reader. We are so dazzled by the prose, so absorbed by the comic and horrific tale, that we risk sympathizing with Humbert. We risk becoming complicit in his illusory spell. Lolita is a test. Nabokov is testing you. He plants subtle yet undeniable clues, logical fallacies, exaggerations, contradictions to guide us away from Humbert's grasp. He is forcing us to reject the narrator and actively seek out the truth. Can you see the comic and horrific reality behind the beautiful words? Can you see the destroyed life of Dolores Hayes, the girl Humbert robs of everything? The book is not an endorsement. It is a challenge to become a better reader, a reader who can see the monster despite his beautiful mask. 8. We need to talk about Kevin by Lionel Shriver. If Lolita asks us to see through a liar, we need to talk about Kevin traps us in a mind that no longer knows what the truth is. This is an epistolary novel. A mother, Eva, writes letters to her estranged husband, Franklin. She is trying to understand how their son, Kevin, came to commit a horrific school massacre. The book is a brutal, agonizing exploration of nature versus nurture. Was Kevin born bad, an inherent sociopath who manipulated his family from his first breath? Oh, or was he a product of Eva? Was it her cold, ambivalent, not-so-sunny personality and her lack of warmth that created a criminal? The book never gives you an answer, and it never will. Because Eva is the definition of an unreliable narrator. She is writing this story after the tragedy. Her memory is muddled by trauma. The signs she describes of Kevin's childhood evil can be greatly exaggerated in hindsight. We are trapped inside the head of a grieving, guilty, and possibly self-justifying mother. Her husband, the one person who could have offered a different view, is dead. we only get her side. The horror of this book is not the massacre. It is the ambiguity. It is the eternal, agonizing doubt. Eva and the reader will never know. 9. House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. This is a book that is a dark book, not just in content, but in form. House of Leaves is the prime example of ergodic literature. That is a term from physics, meaning non-trivial effort is required to traverse the text. You do not just read this book. You explore it. The page layouts are convoluted. Text is upside down, mirrored, or packed into tiny suffocating boxes, creating a claustrophobic effect. On other pages, a single word floats in a sea of white space, creating an agoraphobic effect. You must rotate the book to read it. The book itself is the monster. The plot is a story within a story, an onion of total unreliability. Layer 1. A fictional documentary film called The Navidson Record. It's about a family who moves into a new home, only to find it is larger on the inside than on the outside. A dark, impossibly large labyrinth has appeared in their living room. Layer 2. An academic manuscript written about this film. It is written by a blind 80-year-old, recently deceased man named Zampano. Yes, a blind man, writing an academic critique of a film. Layer 3. This manuscript is found by Johnny Truant, a tattoo shop employee who begins to edit it with his own footnotes. As he does, he descends into paranoia, madness, and agoraphobia. Terrified of a minotaur specter he believes he has unleashed. Zampano is an unreliable narrator. He is blind. Johnny Truant is an unreliable narrator. He is insane. And the Navidson Record itself? It probably doesn't even exist. The book is not about a labyrinth. It is a labyrinth. It is a 700-page academic study of nothing. The darkness is the terrifying realization that you can dig through layers and layers of text, of meaning, only to find an empty, endless void. 10. Exquisite Corpse by Poppy Z. Bright. We are now in the deep end. The next two books are, in my opinion, the two most challenging on this list. Exquisite Corpse is transgressive horror. It is not here to scare you. It is here to violate you, to trespass every moral, social, and aesthetic boundary you have. The plot is a necrophilic, cannibalistic, serial killer love story. This is not fantasy. The novel is explicit. Its characters are, realistically, based on the methods of real-life killers. Andrew Compton is based on Dennis Nilsson. His lover, Jay Byrne, is a Jeffrey Dahmer clone. The novel dissects the landscape of torture in graphic detail. But the book's ultimate transgression is not the violence. It is the romance. The two serial killers fall in love because they share the same obsession. Their intimacy is terrifying. They see themselves as artists. Compton finds aesthetic pleasure in the subtle whisper and slice of the razor. Poppy Z. Bright dares to describe the profane with the language of the sacred. The book forces the reader into a place where the sacred and profane become one. The horror is not that this evil exists. The horror is that it can be described beautifully. 11. Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy. If Exquisite Corpse is about the beauty of evil, Blood Meridian is about the theology of evil. This anti-Western is a somber meditation on violence and absolute evil. It follows the historical Glanton Gang, a band of scalp hunters on the Texas-Mexico border. At the heart of this darkness is Judge Holden. He is close on to 7 feet tall, bald as a stone, with no brows or lashes. He is a monster of charisma and erudition. He is a primeval force of evil and war, who just does cruel and vile things for the sake of it. He is not a nihilist. He is nihilism. And unlike other villains, the Judge has a philosophy, a terrifying, coherent, and almost convincing dark theology. He argues that in a meaningless universe, war is the only creator. It is the truest form of divination. It is the testing of one's will against another. He says, war is the ultimate game, because war is at last a forcing of the unity of existence. War is God. This is the book's thesis. In a world without morals, violence is the eternal engine of the universe. It is perhaps the darkest, most terrifying book ever written. Which is why we must end with this. 12. The Road by Cormac McCarthy, our final book. A haunting and powerful novel set after the apocalypse. The Road is the necessary antidote to Blood Meridian. Blood Meridian argues, war is God. The road is set in the world after that God has won. The world is dead. It is a devastated, ashen landscape. Despair is total. A father and his young son journey through this desolation, struggling to survive. And in this absolute, cold, gray darkness, McCarthy finds one thing to counter the judge: the love between the father and son. This love is carrying the fire. The fire is a metaphor for hope and humanity. It is the values of compassion, love, and hope that the father instills in his son. It is the profound belief that they are the good guys. The father's death at the end is bleak, a culmination of his failing health. But it is not the end. The boy is discovered by a new family, a family that is also carrying the fire. The fire is passed on. The ending suggests that humanity can endure. The enduring power of love and compassion is the only thing that can. The darkness of the world is absolute. But the fire of human connection, however small, is the only true God. We have seen that our value as humans can be transactional. We have seen that we can be disqualified from our own species. We have learned that society itself can be a bell jar, and our refusal to lie about it can be a death sentence. We've seen that our identity can be an empty, consumerist void. We have been trapped by narrators and by the very form of a book. We have stared into the eyes of pure theological evil, and we survived. The final question, the one posed by the bleakest and most hopeful book on this list, is simple. In a world this dark, what fire will you carry? Let me know in the comments which of these books left the deepest mark on you.